Everybody, welcome back to another special edition of the Move Plus. We're trying to do these as much as we can, maybe even daily between now and the end of the race. We're talking about stage 13 from Formigal, finished atop, went across the border into France, finished atop the Col du Tourmalet, the famous climb, probably one of the hardest parcours of the season. I'd say it was basically all climbing and descending, almost no flat whatsoever. A lot of incredibly steep gradients. The big headlines from the day: Jonas Vingegaard wins, the two-time defending Tour de France winner. Sepp Kuss gets second, Primož Roglič third. A Jumbo sweep on the stage podium, and they now sit 1, 2, 3 in the overall. Kuss still has the leader's jersey by 137 over Roglič and 144 over Jonas Vingegaard. And then the other big headline is the complete implosion of Remco Evenepoel. And this episode is brought to you by Manscaped. What a perfect time, considering they're donating another $25,000 to the Testicular Cancer Society to help raise awareness and to fundraise for a good cause. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to remind you to check your gold nuggets this month for anything not so golden. And while you're down there, shave your balls while you save your balls. Support a good cause and go to manscaped.com and use the code LANCE to get 20% off plus free shipping. And make sure to spread the news and tell your buddies to check themselves. Let's start there, Johan. What happened to Remco? He looked pretty strong throughout the first week. We had multiple mountain stages, I think on stage 3 and stage 6. He looked a little dicey on 6, but he looked like his normal self. Like, oh, he lost 20, 30 seconds. He tends to limit losses on a lot of hard mountain stages. I didn't have him losing 27 minutes on my bingo card this morning. What do you think went on there?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't know. I tried to find out. I reached out to some of the people of his team. No illness, nothing specific, apparently. And also, he said, there's no explanation. It's just a bad day. No power. The reservoir was empty. I was really surprised to see that he got in trouble when there was at least 50, 60 riders left. And there were a few attacks, but it was basically the domestique setting the tempo. So obviously there was something wrong. We don't know. It's also, I have to say, if you look at his performances in the big mountains, a stage like today, I think probably Remco has never ridden something like this with, Aubisque and Tourmalet are two really big Tour de France climbs. And we haven't seen anything from him yet. Now, if that goes together with an off day, then on top of that, you lose the morale. The 27 minutes, that's insignificant. I mean, you can't really read anything out of it because, once you're dropped, then he knew his Vuelta was over, so he won't insist, right? But I mean, a bad day like this is definitely a problem. And I don't think we have ever seen such a bad day, but we've seen already weaker moments from Remco Evenepoel in the past. As I said, I don't really know the exact explanation, but I remember that I said before the Vuelta, there's one concern I have with Remco, and that's, the Tour of Spain is 3 weeks long, and he is already 3 or 4 weeks on top form. He started the race again in San Sebastian. No, actually, he won the Belgian Championships. Then he won San Sebastian. Then he prepared for the Worlds. Obviously, was top there in the time trial. So compare that to these other guys, to Jonas and Primož and Sepp Kuss and Enric Mas and Ayuso. None of those guys were there. Ayuso was in San Sebastian. That's true, but didn't go to the Worlds, and so. Maintaining a top peak form for such a long time is definitely a challenge. And also, after 10 days in a Grand Tour, you see that, you start to see differences. So it's not my intention, of course, to really, pull him down based on this one day, right? I think we have to recognize that he's an exceptional athlete. But of course, it is a super disappointment. It's a surprise in the first place, and it's a disappointment. The biggest disappointment will be for himself, of course, for his team. But yeah, I mean, it's not good. It's not a good sign towards his future as a Grand Tour rider. Because if you have a bad day like this, and somehow I don't know why I have this feeling, is that you have these guys like Jonas and Primoz, they're already established Grand Tour riders, and you kind of know, they're at a level, and they may be one day a little bit less, but they're still there. But Remco, for some reason, I don't know why, I always think, hey, we'll see. Either he's super good or he may be completely crap.
Yeah,
and that's what happened
exactly.
today.
And I mean, you've seen it. I mean, I hate to like bring up the Tour. So I think I was mentioning the Tour of Switzerland yesterday, but it's really the only time we've seen him race like big HC climbs one after the other. And he has historically struggled with that race. Like he's not ever really done that well in the GC. He'll be on and off. Sometimes he's getting dropped 2 climbs from the finish. And it is becoming a bit of a habit. You do kind of wonder, is he, like, let's say he has the career of Alejandro Valverde, a lot of one-day wins, a lot of stage wins, 1 Vuelta a España, 1 Grand Tour win throughout his career. Like, would that be a disappointment? Or, is that something we have to kind of prepare ourselves for? It doesn't look good considering that there was all this noise leading in here that he wanted to be paid on the same level as Tadej Pogacar. That looks a little like less connected to reality, perhaps, at this point.
Well,
but
I mean, again, let's not completely judge him on this one day. The guy's obviously super talented. And listen, if Ineos is that interested in Remco Evenepoel, it's because they know how good he is, right? But another thing, Spencer, all this chaos and this speculations and this rumors in the press about this potential him leaving. Does he stay? Does he leave? What's going on behind the scenes? Whatever. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, all that is not good for a rider's mental tranquility. You have to be in peace. You have to be able to focus on, your efforts, on your nutrition and your recovery. And if all that, even subconsciously, is in Remco must be, before the Tour, before the Vuelta, for sure, this has affected him. Even if he says, "Yeah, no, I'm bigger than this," but it does affect you, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I guess if let's say you're Ineos, you're not going to look at this and think, "Oh, we don't want him anymore," or at least I don't think so, because they should probably think, "Oh, well, we can fix all of this." Like, you look at his 1 week. He wins a lot of 1 week stage races, but they just aren't high mountain ones. And you could say, well, that's similar to Primoz Roglic before Jumbo kind of turned him into a machine that can win in the high mountains. Like, there's a path where he gets on a different team, and maybe Ineos thinks this isn't a good situation for him. But I do recall we had that conversation in the podcast after the World Time Trial Championships where we said, maybe this is too much. Maybe this is going to bite him.
Too long of a time span to stay in peak form.
Yeah. And another theory I wanted to run by you. I mean, Grand Tours are just complicated things, but you had the weekend of racing, Monday rest day, time trial Tuesday, low overall kilojoule effort though, just a 30-minute effort, low kilojoule effort yesterday. Is it possible he just came out and was blocked? Just because he got dropped in the Col d'Aubisque, which was the first real climb of the day.
But at this point, Spencer, 12, 13 days into the race now, I'm not buying that. Your body is in motion. You're in this, day after day. No. If that would be like 3-4 days into the Grand Tour, I could say maybe, but not after such a long. No, not after 2 weeks of racing. At least that's. I mean, maybe. I mean, listen. When you're off, then nothing looks right. He didn't look his usual self on the bike. His position was different. He looked different. But when you're off on everything, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's weird situation with the team. I thought this was really odd. Before the stage finished, they released a statement that he was not sick.
Mm-hmm.
That seems not great, because then you're basically cutting his legs out from under them, because he gets to the finish line and he can't say he's sick. Like, if you're the team, maybe you wait for him to cross the finish line, see what he says, then key your message off of that. I thought that was really odd.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen. Did they put a statement out actually as a team during the stage?
I was watching Eurosport GCN, and they said, we just received a statement from the press officer at Quickstep that Remco's not sick.
Oh, well, I haven't seen that. Maybe they got information. I mean, I also asked during the stage somebody within the team, and he also said, at least, before the stage and at the beginning of the stage, he never mentioned he was sick. So we don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah. And we don't know. We might never know. It just might be one of those things that, wow, that was weird. Well, and then, the same, we're just going to he'll probably drop out of this race. Do you think he's not going to finish this?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Then this will be fired up again at the Tour next year.
I don't think so. I think, unless there's something wrong, right? But if he's not sick, I think he's staying, and he's going to try to, go in a breakaway and win a stage probably. He already won a stage, but
yeah, that would be the best case scenario. That would be the most fun to watch. Speaking of fun and not fun, it's the Jumbo show from here on in, if we're being realistic. I mean, they showed today. I thought Jonas, we didn't pick him on outcomes. I felt a little silly, but we said he's not on the form of the Tour. I thought he was dangling out there. Yeah, a little bit. He just kind of toughed his way to the win there. Sepp Kuss closed 30 seconds with a less than kilometer length acceleration at the end. I mean, Sepp Kuss obviously looks incredible. Primoz, I thought it was hard to read him on that climb. He had the Jersey Open. He looked a little bit in trouble, but then he almost catches Kuss by the end and ends up looking pretty good. I mean, how do they play this? Now that they have Kuss so far in front, Roglic, Vindigo about, 7 seconds apart in second and third. I thought they played it pretty well. They didn't want to go too easy on the final climb because they need to get rid of Soler. You don't want to play around with that. Get rid of all those other guys.
Me, it looks like they're okay, first of all, I mean, amazing 1, 2, 3 in today's stage. Now also 1, 2, 3 in the GC, and it looks to me like it would be. We're coming to a point now where they're spoiling us with their dominance. Where if they're not finishing 1, 2, 3 now, it's going to be a failure. Well, first of all, I think it looks really, really good for Sepp Kuss because his situation actually improved today. He had Soler close by, he had Remco at 109. Now he's leading his own teammate with 137, and his other teammate with 144. So if Sepp Kuss can only lose this Vuelta if he has a bad day and cracks and can't follow the attacks of the others, which are Ayuso, Enric Mas. Uiterbroeks was really good today. Other than that, I mean, Soler maybe. But other than, I mean, Vlasov is not going to go anywhere. So, I mean, Sepp Kuss, it looks great for Sepp Kuss. I mean, I'm happy we placed that bet yesterday for the GC.
Yeah, that swung quite a bit. Any value has been wrung out of that. And we should say, so the closest non-Jumbo rider to Kuss is Juan Ayuso, 237 behind Kuss. But the craziest thing is the fourth place rider, the first non-Jumbo rider is in fourth, almost a minute behind the last Jumbo rider in third. So that's a lot of cushion to play with.
Yeah, and especially, Spencer, if you see, based off today, right? Whenever Mas or Ayuso tried something, they were there. And they were, whenever they could, they tried to drop them. And they did drop them at the end. So I heard this interview of Ayuso. Ayuso feels good, but he says it's so frustrating. I mean, first, we knew they were strong, but, you have to pull because otherwise the guy's gone. But then you have Roglic on your wheel. And what are you going to do? I mean, and this is always going to be the same. So yeah. I think it's Sepp Kuss's race now to win. Looks good for him. I think he's going to get more and more confidence. At the end, he dropped everybody except his teammate who was in front. So you could say he was probably the strongest rider in the race, Sepp Kuss.
That attack was unbelievable. It kind of looked like Moss was trying to ride him off the back or something, but it really just gave him a better runway. And he even had to hit the brakes because he almost hit a fan. He couldn't quite get through at the front, but he was traveling almost, it looked like twice as fast as the rest of the GC riders.
I mean, there was obviously a lot of, looking around going on and very tactical. But yeah, I mean, he was super strong. Never at any point was he in trouble. Not even close.
And it's
I think listen, it's still very hard, but man, it looks good for Sepp. It looks really good for him.
I mean, really good. And it's rare too to have a team that, let's say Sepp Kuss falls apart, just falls off a cliff in the third week. They don't even have to do anything. They just keep riding, and they'll have two guys in contention for the win. I've never seen anything like this.
Well, I mean, listen, we shouldn't be surprised. They do have a very strong team. We knew that. And if you look at, Roglic and Jonas, they're up there. They're confirmed, they're two of the four best stage racers, right? And Sepp Kuss, we've never seen him, but we've never seen him do a race where he was not pulling in the mountain. So they're not going to drop him. I don't think so.
No, I think it would have to be crash like the Tour.
Well, I mean, Sepp Kuss can lose if Roglic to me looks really strong, I have to say. Jonas looked okay, but definitely not the Jonas from the Tour. He won because they had the numbers, and he was the furthest down in GC. But I thought Roglic looked really strong today, in control. That acceleration at the end showed a lot, and so that could be the biggest rival for Sepp Kuss. But now we have to see, how they're going to play it. These two riders, Roglic and Vingegaard, they have won multiple Grand Tours. This can only be in their favor for the future if they do everything they can to help Sepp Kuss win this Vuelta.
Yeah, I mean, do you think we'll see live racing between Roglic and Kuss? Like, will Roglic be attacking Sepp Kuss, or is he just have to follow?
I can't see that happen.
I can't.
I can see that happen. Also, look, for example, I don't know how these guys have negotiated their contracts, but I think we can safely say that, Jonas, Vingegaard, and Primož Roglic, if they win the Vuelta, they won't have a bonus. They are paid to win these races, right? So it doesn't really matter financially for them if they win. I hope Sepp Kuss has something in his contract. I don't know who his agent is, but
I hope so too. He should have something in there.
But it's very likely that it's not in there because he's not that type of rider. I mean, that's normally not. He'd probably have a bonus if he's part of a Grand Tour winning team. But if he wins it himself, so he could also get the bonus. I'm just thinking out loud here without knowing anything.
You'd imagine his market rate would go up quite a bit that Jumbo would have to match if he won this race.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Johan. Do you have anything else to add before we take off?
No, that's it. Tomorrow is another really, really hard stage.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I'm fascinated to see how this plays out tomorrow. My intuition is that Jonas he looked trashed at the end. I mean, he was tired in a way that I've never seen him at the Tour. So I'm curious to see if he can hang on tomorrow.
Yeah.
To see
Spencer, this is the Vuelta. It's not the same. This is the Vuelta, and it's completely different. He's hanging on. I'm not worried at all about Jonas Vingegaard.
He's not. You don't think Jonas is too worried about Enric Mas just popping him? No. All right. Well, thanks, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk about stage 14.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Bye.